everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are diving deep into diabetes complications and how to prevent them.
Yeah, it's a topic we get a ton of questions about, so I'm really excited to break it all down.
Me too, because there is so much information out there, and it can be overwhelming.
Yeah,
But the good news is we've got you covered. We've done a ton of research, sifting through medical journals, expert opinions, and even personal stories of people living with diabetes.
and we're here to share the latest findings, practical tips, and hopefully some inspiration to help you thrive on your diabetes journey.
Okay. So before we get into the specifics, I think it's important to address the elephant in the room, the fact that unmanaged diabetes can lead to some pretty serious health issues, right?
Okay.
But here's the thing. A lot of these complications are preventable or at least manageable with the right knowledge and proactive steps.
That's really the key takeaway here, taking charge of your health. It's empowering to know that you can actually do something to reduce your risk.
Okay, so let's unpack that. Let's talk about the different types of complications that can arise from unmanaged diabetes. I know we often hear about microvascular and macrovascular complications.
Right.
Can you break those down for us? What's the difference?
Sure. It might sound complicated, but it's actually pretty simple. Microvascular complications, that's a big word. It basically means it affects the small blood vessels in your body.
Okay, the tiny ones.
Exactly. And those small vessels are everywhere. They're in your eyes, your kidneys, your nerves. So when those vessels are damaged because of high blood sugar, it can lead to some pretty serious problems.
Like what? Give us some examples.
Sure. So, for example, you could develop neuropathy,
Neuropathy, okay.
which is nerve damage.
Right.
And that can cause tingling, numbness, pain, especially in your hands and feet.
I've heard about that.
You can also get retinopathy.
Okay.
That's damage to the blood vessels in your eyes. And that can lead to vision problems or even blindness if it's not caught early.
Oh, wow. Okay, so vision loss is a real possibility.
It is. And then there's nephropathy.
Another nephropathy.
Yeah, exactly. And that's damage to the small blood vessels in your kidneys. And the kidneys are super important. They filter your blood, so if they're not working properly, that can lead to kidney failure.
Oh, wow. Okay, so those are some pretty serious complications. But we said there were two main categories, right?
Right.
You talked about microvascular, those tiny blood vessels. What about the larger blood vessels?
Right. So the larger blood vessels are the ones that we call macrovascular complications.
Okay.
And those are the ones that are more likely to cause problems like heart disease, stroke, and peripheral artery disease.
Okay. So this is like the big stuff. This is the stuff that we hear about all the time.
It is, yeah. And it's really important to be aware of these complications because they can be life-threatening. But the good news is, again, a lot of them are preventable.
Okay, good. So let's talk about prevention. Let's start with those smaller blood vessels, the microvascular complications. You mentioned neuropathy, retinopathy, nephropathy. What can people do to reduce their risk of developing these issues?
Well, the most important thing, and this is going to be a recurring theme throughout our conversation, is managing your blood sugar.
Okay, so blood sugar control is key.
Absolutely.
Right.
Keeping your blood sugar levels within a healthy range, it can significantly reduce your risk of developing all of these complications.
Okay. And how do you do that? What are some practical tips for managing blood sugar? I mean, people hear that all the time, but what does it actually look like on a day-to-day basis?
So it comes down to a few key things.
Okay.
Diet is incredibly important.
Okay.
What you eat has a direct impact on your blood sugar levels. So you want to focus on a balanced diet that's rich in fiber, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, lean protein.
So the stuff we all know is good for us anyway.
Yeah, exactly. The healthy stuff. But it's especially important for people with diabetes to really pay attention to what they're eating and how it affects their blood sugar.
Right.
Another important factor is exercise.
Oh, okay, so movement.
Physical activity helps your body use insulin more effectively, and that can help lower your blood sugar levels. So aiming for at least 30 minutes of moderate intensity exercise most days of the week can make a big difference.
Got it. So eat well and move your body sounds pretty straightforward.
It is. It's simple, but it's not always easy. But it's definitely worth it.
Okay. And I imagine regular checkups with your doctor are important too, right?
Absolutely. Regular checkups are crucial because they allow your doctor to monitor your blood sugar levels, check for any early signs of complications, and adjust your treatment plan as needed.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about those individual microvascular complications. Starting with neuropathy, the nerve damage, you mentioned that it can cause tingling, numbness, pain in the hands and feet.
Right.
What are some other things that people should watch out for? What are their early warning signs of neuropathy?
So one of the first signs that people often notice is that tingling or numbness.
Okay.
It can feel like pins and needles or like a burning
Yeah,
sensation.
yeah.
And sometimes people feel like they're wearing socks, even when they're not.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Yeah. You can also have pain. It can be sharp, shooting pain, or it can be a dull, aching pain.
Okay.
And sometimes people have problems with balance and coordination because they can't feel their feet properly.
So this is more than just like an occasional tingling in your foot. This is like a persistent issue.
Yeah, if you're experiencing any of these symptoms, especially if they're persistent or getting worse, it's really important to talk to your doctor right away because early diagnosis and treatment can help prevent further nerve damage.
Got it. So if you're feeling any kind of weird sensations in your hands or feet, don't ignore it.
Exactly, don't ignore it.
Okay. Let's move on to retinopathy, the eye damage.
Okay?
That's obviously a really scary one because it can lead to vision loss. What are the early warning signs of retinopathy?
The early stages of retinopathy often don't have any noticeable symptoms.
So you might not even know it's happening.
That's right, which is why those regular eye exams are so important. But as the condition progresses, you might start to experience blurry vision. You might see floaters, those little spots or squiggles that drift across your field of vision,
Okay.
and you might have trouble seeing at night.
Okay. So any changes in your vision, basically.
Right. And again, if you notice any of those changes, it's really important to see your eye doctor as soon as possible.
Okay. So neuropathy, check for tingling or numbness. Retinopathy, get your eyes checked regularly. What about nephropathy, that kidney damage? What are the early warning signs of that?
So kidney damage is a little trickier because it often doesn't cause any symptoms in the early stages.
Oh, great. Okay, so another one where we need to be proactive.
Yeah, exactly. But as the condition progresses, you might start to see some signs like swelling in your feet or ankles.
Mm-hmm.
You might notice that you're urinating more frequently, especially at night,
Oh, okay.
and your urine might look foamy, which is a sign that there's protein in it.
Foamy urine, that's kind of a weird one.
It is.
Mhm.
But it's something to be aware of. You might also have high blood pressure, which can be a sign of kidney damage.
Got it. So if you see any of those signs, definitely talk to your doctor, get those kidneys checked out. We've talked about those microvascular complications, those small blood vessels, but what about those larger vessels, the macrovascular complications you mentioned earlier?
Right, those are the ones that can lead to things like heart attack, stroke, peripheral artery
The
disease.
big, scary ones.
They are. And the early warning signs for these conditions can vary, but there are some common things to watch out for.
Okay, like what?
So for a heart attack, you might experience chest pain, shortness of breath, pain or discomfort in your arm or jaw, back pain, nausea, lightheadedness.
Okay, those are definitely not things you want to ignore.
Right. And if you think you might be having a heart attack, it's really important to call 911 or get to the emergency room right away.
Okay. What about stroke? What are the warning signs of a stroke?
The acronym FAST is really helpful to remember for stroke warning signs.
FSS. Okay.
F is for facial drooping. So if one side of your face suddenly droops, that's a warning sign.
Okay.
A is for arm weakness. So if you suddenly have weakness or numbness in one arm, that's another warning sign.
Got it.
S is for speech difficulty. So if you suddenly have trouble speaking or understanding speech, that's another warning sign.
Okay.
And T is for time to call 911. So if you experience any of these symptoms, it's crucial to call 911 immediately because the sooner you get treatment, the better your chances of recovery.
Wow. Okay, so fast, we'll all remember that. And what about peripheral artery disease? What is that, and what are the warning signs?
Peripheral artery disease affects the arteries in your legs and feet. It's basically a buildup of plaque in those arteries, and that restricts blood flow to your limbs.
Okay.
And one of the most common symptoms is pain in your legs or calves when you're walking. It's called intermittent claudication, and it's basically a cramping pain that comes and goes.
Okay.
You might also have numbness or tingling in your feet, sores on your feet or legs that don't heal, and your feet might feel cold to the touch.
Okay, so another one where we need to pay attention to our feet.
Yeah, foot care is super important for people with diabetes in general, but especially if you have peripheral artery disease.
Okay, so we've covered the basics of those microvascular and macrovascular complications, and we've talked about some of those early warning signs to watch out for.
Right. And it's important to remember that these are just a few of the potential complications that can arise from unmanaged diabetes. Diabetes can affect virtually every organ in your body, so it's really crucial to be proactive about managing your health.
And we're going to talk a lot more about those proactive steps, those prevention strategies, in the next part of our deep dive.
Yes, we'll dive into those prevention strategies in detail. We'll talk about lifestyle changes, medications, technology, all kinds of things that can help you stay healthy and prevent those complications from developing in the first place.
That's awesome. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive. We've talked about the different types of complications that can arise from unmanaged diabetes, and we've highlighted those early warning signs.
And we've emphasized the importance of taking those proactive steps to protect your health.
We'll be back shortly with part two, where we'll dive deeper into those prevention and management strategies. Until then, take care and stay tuned.
See you soon. Welcome back to the deep dive. Before we move on to those prevention strategies,
Yeah.
I think it's important to acknowledge that this is all a lot to take in, right?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, we've only just scratched the surface of diabetes complications, and it can feel overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important to remember that you don't have to have all the answers right away. This is a journey, not a sprint.
Right, and that's where I think building a strong support system can be really helpful.
Absolutely. Having people you can turn to for support,
Yeah.
advice, encouragement, it can make all the difference.
Yeah, whether it's family, friends, a support group, or even online communities, connecting with others who understand what you're going through can be so empowering.
It really can. And it's not just about emotional support either, right?
Mhm.
Having people to help you with practical things like meal planning or getting to appointments can be a huge help.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's important to remember that asking for help isn't a sign of weakness. It's actually a sign of strength.
Absolutely. It takes strength to admit that you need help and to reach out to others. And it's okay to not be okay all the time.
Yeah. It's okay to have those days where you feel overwhelmed or frustrated, and it's important to have people you can talk to about those feelings.
Definitely. And it's important to remember that you're not alone in this. Millions of people around the world are living with diabetes, and there are resources and support systems available to help you every step of the way. Speaking of support systems, I think it's important to touch on the role of healthcare professionals.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, your doctor, your diabetes educator, they're your partners in this journey, right?
Exactly. They're there to provide guidance, answer your questions, and help you develop a personalized treatment plan.
Right. And it's really important to have open and honest communication with your healthcare team.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to ask questions, share your concerns, and advocate for your needs. When it comes to managing diabetes, knowledge is power. The more you know about your condition, the better equipped you'll be to make informed decisions about your health.
Right. And I know there's a lot of information out there. I mean, it can be overwhelming to know where to start.
It can be. But there are so many great resources available, from reputable websites and organizations to books and even podcasts like this one.
Yeah, we try to make it a little easier to digest all that info.
Right. And don't hesitate to reach out to your healthcare team for recommendations on reliable sources of information.
That's a great point. They can really steer you in the right direction. So, okay, we've talked about support systems, the importance of healthcare professionals. Now let's get into those practical strategies for preventing those complications we discussed in the first part.
Okay, let's do it. Like we said before, blood sugar control is absolutely paramount.
Right. It all comes back to that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
And we talked a bit about diet and exercise earlier, but let's dive a little deeper.
Okay. So, diet-wise, what are some of the key things people with diabetes should keep in mind?
It's not as restrictive as you might think. It's all about making smart choices and finding a balance that works for you.
Okay.
Focus on foods that are high in fiber and low in saturated and trans fats. So things like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins.
Got it. So the good stuff.
Exactly. And be mindful of portion sizes. It's easy to overeat, even healthy foods. So pay attention to how much you're putting on your plate.
Right. Portion control is key. What about carbs? I know carbs can have a big impact on blood sugar.
They definitely can. And it's not about avoiding carbs altogether. It's about choosing the right kinds of carbs and spreading them out throughout the day. So focus on complex carbs like whole grains and legumes, rather than simple carbs like sugary drinks and processed snacks.
Okay. So it's about making those smart carb choices. And what about exercise? What kind of exercise is best for people with diabetes, and how much should they be aiming for?
Most types of physical activity can be beneficial for people with diabetes. The key is to find something you enjoy and that you can stick with.
Okay, so it's about making it sustainable.
Right, because if you don't enjoy it, you're less likely to do it. And aim for at least 30 minutes of moderate intensity exercise most days of the week. That could be brisk walking, swimming, dancing, cycling, anything that gets your heart rate up.
Okay, so get moving, but make it fun. And we talked earlier about the importance of regular checkups with your doctor, right?
Right. Regular checkups are crucial for monitoring your blood sugar levels, your blood pressure, your cholesterol, all those things that can impact your overall health.
Okay. And I know there are also specific screenings that are important for people with diabetes. Can you talk a little bit about those?
Sure. One of the most important screenings is a dilated eye exam. That allows your eye doctor to check for any signs of diabetic retinopathy, that eye damage we talked about earlier.
Right. And how often should people be getting those eye exams?
It depends on your individual risk factors, but in general, most people with diabetes should have a dilated eye exam at least once a year.
Got it. So eyes checked. What about feet? We talked about the importance of foot care.
Right. Foot care is super important for people with diabetes because high blood sugar can damage the nerves and blood vessels in your feet, which can lead to problems like ulcers and infections.
Yeah. So what are some practical tips for taking care of your feet?
So first and foremost, check your feet every day. Look for any cuts, sores, blisters, redness, swelling, anything that looks unusual, and wash your feet daily with warm water and mild soap. And be sure to dry them thoroughly, especially between your toes.
Okay. So daily foot checks. What else?
Wear comfortable shoes that fit well and protect your feet. And if you notice any problems, no matter how small, don't hesitate to see your doctor or a podiatrist right away.
Okay. So eyes checked, feet checked. What about kidney health? How can people monitor their kidney function and protect their kidneys from damage?
Your doctor can monitor your kidney function with regular blood and urine tests.
Okay.
And there are things you can do to protect your kidneys, like keeping your blood pressure under control
Okay.
and managing your blood sugar levels.
So it all ties back together.
It does. And avoiding medications that can damage your kidneys, like over-the-counter pain relievers. If you have any questions about your medications, it's always best to talk to your doctor. In addition to those screenings and lifestyle modifications, there are also medications that can help prevent or manage diabetes complications.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about those. I know there are a lot of different medications out there. Can you give us a quick overview of the main types of diabetes medications?
Sure. So there are several different classes of diabetes medications, each with its own unique mechanism of action.
Okay.
Some medications help your pancreas produce more insulin.
Okay.
Some help your body use insulin more effectively. Okay.
And some help slow down the absorption of carbohydrates from your digestive tract.
Okay. So it's a pretty complex landscape.
It can be. But your doctor can help you determine which medication or combination of medications is right for you based on your individual needs and health history.
Got it. So talk to your doctor. It seems like that's a good takeaway message in general.
Definitely. And don't be afraid to ask questions about your medications. It's important to understand how they work, what side effects to watch out for, and how to take them safely and effectively.
Okay. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about lifestyle changes, screenings, medications. Are there any other tools or resources that can help people with diabetes prevent complications and stay healthy?
One thing we haven't talked about yet is technology. And there have been some really exciting advancements in diabetes technology in recent years.
Yeah, I've heard about things like continuous glucose monitors and insulin pumps. Can you talk a little bit about those? Sure. A continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, is a small device that you wear on your body, usually on your arm or abdomen, and it continuously measures your blood sugar levels throughout the day and night.
Okay, so it's like a little blood sugar detective.
Exactly. And it sends that information to a receiver, which can be your smartphone or a separate device, so you can see your blood sugar trends in real time.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So you don't have to prick your finger all the time.
Right. CGMs have really revolutionized diabetes management because they give you so much more information about your blood sugar levels than traditional finger prick testing.
That's incredible. So CGMs are great for monitoring blood sugar. What about insulin pumps? How do those work?
An insulin pump is a small computerized device that delivers insulin continuously throughout the day.
Okay.
You wear it on your body, and it's connected to a thin tube that's inserted under your skin. And you can program the pump to deliver a basal rate of insulin, which is a continuous low dose. And then you can also give yourself bolus doses of insulin before meals or to correct high blood sugar.
So it's like having an artificial pancreas.
It kind of is. And it can be really helpful for people who have trouble managing their blood sugar with injections.
That's amazing. So technology is really playing a big role in diabetes management these days.
It really is. And there are all sorts of other apps and devices that can help people with diabetes stay on track with their health, from blood sugar trackers to meal planners to fitness apps.
It's like having a whole team of health coaches in your pocket.
It is. And the great thing is that most of these apps and devices are really user-friendly. You don't have to be a tech whiz to use them.
That's awesome. So we've covered a lot of ground in this second part of our deep dive. We've talked about the importance of building a strong support system, the role of healthcare professionals, and we've delved into those practical strategies for preventing complications, including lifestyle changes, screenings, medications, and the exciting world of diabetes technology.
And I think the main takeaway here is that there's so much you can do to manage your diabetes effectively and live a long, healthy, fulfilling life.
We'll be back shortly with part 3, where we'll wrap things up and offer some final thoughts on thriving with diabetes. Until then, stay tuned. Welcome back to the deep dive. So we've talked about a lot of heavy stuff, but I think it's important to end on a positive note. Because even though diabetes presents challenges, it doesn't have to define you.
Absolutely. You can still live a full and vibrant life with diabetes.
Yeah. I mean, we've heard some amazing stories of resilience and triumph from people who are not just managing their diabetes, but thriving with it.
Right. Like we talked about earlier, it's about taking control of your health, making those lifestyle changes, being proactive with your health care, and not letting diabetes hold you back.
Exactly. And one thing that I think is so important is to find joy in the journey, right? It's easy to get caught up in all the things you should be doing, but it's important to remember to have fun too.
Oh, absolutely. Find activities you enjoy that also support your health goals, whether that's trying new diabetes-friendly recipes, joining a hiking group, or taking up a new sport. Make it fun.
Right, because if you're not enjoying it, you're less likely to stick with it. And speaking of sticking with it, I think it's important to acknowledge that there will be ups and downs along the way. There will be days when you feel like you're rocking it and days when you feel like you're struggling.
Oh, absolutely. That's just part of life, right? But the key is to not get discouraged, to remember that you're not alone, and to keep moving forward.
Exactly. And that's where that support system we talked about earlier comes in. Don't be afraid to reach out for help when you need it.
And celebrate your victories, no matter how small. Every step you take towards better health is a win. And remember that managing diabetes is a marathon, not a sprint.
So true. And progress, not perfection, is the goal.
Exactly. You don't have to be perfect. Just keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving to be the healthiest version of yourself.
So well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive into diabetes complications and prevention.
Yeah. I hope you found it informative and empowering.
We've covered a lot of ground, but the main takeaway is that you have the power to shape your health journey.
So take charge, be proactive, and never stop believing in your ability to thrive.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We'll see you next time.